Right now, I'm challenging myself to see if I can make 128 Regulation H teams that are each different from one another over the course of 128 days. Why 128, you might ask? At the end of the 128 days, we're going to do something special where we battle every team against each other in a single elimination bracket to see which team emerges on top. There will be some competitively strong teams, there will be some gimmick teams, and there will be some probably a good number of goofs and gaffs in there, so if you want to follow through to the end, subscribe so that you can keep up with each day. But without further ado, let's move on to day 30. Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be going over a gravity-based Maushold team. Let's take a quick hop over to Sableye here, but just in case you don't know what the effect gravity does, it's a field condition that lasts for 5 turns and makes it so that all of the flying type Pokemon are grounded, but more importantly, it makes it so that every move used inside of gravity has 1.67 times the accuracy. So this team is based around a lot of Pokemon that don't have the most accurate moves, and this really gives them a chance to shine, as long as we can get gravity activated, but if we can't, then we're just going to have to play into the randomness of missing our moves, which gives me an absolute headache. So before I have to think about that too much, let's go over to Cleaver. We're going to be using Cleaver here for its Stone Axe move, which is its signature move that allows it to do a 65 base power move, but because of our sharpness ability, it's going to be boosted by 1.5 times. So we're going to be able to have a much stronger Stone Axe and do really good rock type damage, but it also sets up the Stealth Rock whenever we land the Stone Axe. And Stone Axe is 90% accurate, so there's going to be a lot of times that you just miss the Stone Axe, and since we're using the Choice Scarf on Cleaver, it's very essential that we land that first Stone Axe, especially whenever there's something that we want to take off the field with a super effective hit. And we have Close Combat on Cleaver because we need fighting type damage somewhere on this team, and Cleaver is the best Pokemon to give it to us. That's why we also have the fighting type Terra on Cleaver, and we also have the U-turn just in case we need to do some quick stab bug type damage and switch out, and we have the Tailwind for supporting the team to make us overall faster. Next up we have Sableye, who is going to be our prankster gravity setter, giving us priority on setting up gravity, and we're going to be using the eject button trick strategy on Sableye, which the eject button will switch out a Pokemon once it is hit, and since we have so many fast Pokemon on this team, it's really easy for us to trick the eject button onto a Pokemon and then take their item that they want, and then we can use one of our fast Pokemon to activate their eject button, which hopefully means that they won't be able to move for the turn, since they're being forced to switch out. And then I wanted to have at least one attacking move on Sableye. Since we're using a trick, it's kind of likely that we're going to trick ourselves into being Assault Vested, and if we trick ourselves into being Assault Vested without an attack move, then Sableye is just going to struggle in the field. So we're using Snarl on Sableye just so it has an attacking move, which it can be kind of handy to lower the special attack of everything that's on the field, and we just have Protect just to save us a turn. Next up, we got the Maushold, and Maushold is going to be mostly using its signature move, Population Bomb, which has the ability to go up to 200 base power since it is a 20 base power move that can hit up to 10 times. However, each hit has the possibility of missing, but when we have gravity up, it's going to be guaranteed that we land all 10 pop bombs, which is super important for the strategy. And we also have some kind of niche support moves in the Taunt on Maushold in order to make it so that we can get rid of status moves on the opponent, and we have the Super Fang just for anything that we might want to cut down in half HP and then have something else KO. And with the Technician ability, the strength of our pop bombs is going to be even higher along with our Terra Normal, and we're Clear Amulet mostly so just that we're not getting intimidated on Maushold, and Maushold can really maximize that normal type damage. Next up, we got Flapple here, and Flapple is a bit of a fun one because it has the signature move Grav Apple, which actually gains 1.5 times power whenever gravity is set up, which is not something that I knew at the start of this generation, I'll tell you that much. But whenever we land the Grab Apple, it also decreases the defense of the Pokemon that we hit by 1, which is super nice since we have a bunch of physical attackers on this team. And we can also use the Outrage for good stab dragon type damage, even though it's a little bit random, and we have the Terra Blast for Terra Ground, just in case we need to surprise some opponents that are like steel types or electric types. And lastly, we just have the Dual Wing Beat for type coverage to hit other grass types pretty much. And with the Hustle ability, all of our attacks are boosted by 1.5 times, however our accuracy is only 80% on all of these moves. But with the Gravity, we're going to be guaranteed to be landing all of our moves, so we can really do a lot of damage with the Choice Band and our Hustle in combination with each other. Next up we got Magnezone here, and Magnezone is designed to do a lot of electric type damage with the Zap Cannon, which is only 50% accurate. However, However, under gravity, it becomes closer to like 82%, I believe. But that 82% is still pretty big. And with a 100% chance to get paralysis, there's a lot of reason to be using Zap Cannon on Magnezone, especially when Magnezone is the slowest Pokemon on the field, because that activates our analytic ability, which means that we have a free 1.3 times power if we are the last to move in the turn. Magnezone's just going to be rocking good stab damage, and the Flash Cannon and the Volt Switch will allow us to pivot out, and we just have the Body Press since Magnezone has a lot of natural physical bulk, and having fighting type damage is pretty good. And we're Terra Flying so that we're dodging the ground type moves. And lastly, we have the Rotom Wash, who is known to miss a bunch of Hydro Pumps, but hopefully under gravity we won't be missing any of those Hydro Pumps. I mean, it would be kind of weird if we did. I guess the opponent would have to be like Sandville Bright Powder or something like that. But we have a more guaranteed chance to land our Hydro Pumps on this team. We also have the Volt Switch for good pivoting on Rotom, and we have the Will-O-Wisp for lowering the physical base power of the opponent's moves. And I just decided to slap Helping Hand on Rotom for a good support move. And we're using the Covert Cloak so that we're not getting faked out. And we're Terra Electric because with our Levitate ability, if we go Terra Electric, we won't have any weaknesses. And Rotom can do a lot of electric type damage. Maybe not as much as Magnezone, but still, electric type damage is very valuable right now because of how often we see rain teams. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the team. Let's get into some battles. Okay, so first off we have a battle against a team that has a pretty wide variety of mons here, but the most important thing they have is probably Murkrow because they can get off the Tailwind, but Hisuian Decidueye can also hit Sableye with triple arrows, and it's going to be super effective because we're a Dark type. So we start the game with Sableye and Flapple, and they start the game with Decidueye and Murkrow, and they decided Tailwind with Murkrow as I decided to set Gravity, and we get triple arrows into Sableye, but Sableye gets swapped down and it has the Gravity up, and we get to swap in Magnezone, as Dual Wing Beat is going to land and KO Decidueye in one Dual Wing Beat, which is pretty nice. And they decide to reveal that their last mon is Rillaboom right away for whatever reason, as I just decided to sack Sableye here. Thinking that Goldingo might make it rain, but it actually has Dazzling Gleam, which is a little bit better, as Magnezone gets the Zap Cannon into Rillaboom and gets to paralyze it, and the Rillaboom is revealed to have leftovers, which is a little strange. I decided to Helping Hand into Magnezone in order to get that big damage Zap Cannon, but we don't get to KO the Murkrow here, which is a little unfortunate as we're wasting our turns of Gravity. I swap back in Flapple because I really don't kind of need to save Rotom for the Goldango in order to resist the Make It Rain in case Magnezone has to go down for whatever reason, and Flapple isn't as useful at this point. But on our last turn of Gravity, we're just going to go for Outrage with Flapple, and even a resisted hit into Goldango does that much to it, and we get to absolutely obliterate the Murkrow this time around, as Rillaboom is going to get to return to the field, and they fake out Magnezone, and they decide to Dazzling Gleam, and the Dazzling Gleam is going to KO Flapple because Flapple's pretty frail, as Magnezone is going to get flinched. We get to bring in Rotom Wash, and at this point I Terra Flying Magnezone because there's really, like, the Rillaboom might have high horsepower was my only reason for doing that, as Rotom is going to get taken down by the Wood Hammer, and we're just going to get to Volt Switch the Goldango in order to guaranteed take that out, and now it's just a matter of the Rillaboom slowly taking our damage from Body Press over time, and just keeps taking Body Press. But now that we're outside of Tailwind, we don't get the Analytic boost on the Body Press anymore, and the Rillaboom did pretty good damage with the knockoff, as I tried to Flash Cannon there because I remember that they weren't Assault Vest, and getting the Spadef drop on Flash Cannon would help wrap things up, but they decided to Terra Fire, so we actually get to hit them with an Electric type move instead. Next up, we have a bit of a Snow team. However, there's not any other Pokemon on this team that contend well with the Snow part of Alolan Ninetales, but still sending up Aurora Veil can disrupt a few of our strategies, and they also have Talonflame for setting up the Tailwind, and Magmar for good redirection. So we start this game with they start the game with Talonflame and Scizor, and we start the game with Rotom and Cleaver here. I'm kind of expecting Scizor to Bullet Punch his Talonflame sets up Tailwind, and that's exactly what happened. And we actually didn't need to Terra into fighting in order to live that Bullet Punch, which is pretty insane to me. But we missed the Will-O-Wisp into Scizor, which is a little annoying. At least we got Talonflame out of the way, but now we have to bring in Magnezone here in order to hopefully soak up the Bullet Punch, but it actually soaks up the Dual Wing Beat, which I guess I'm a little bit more okay with. As this time we get to Will-O-Wisp into Scizor, which effectively takes it out of the game. Now we're just Helping Handing Magnezone. His Bullet Punch does absolutely no damage into Rotom because Rotom quad resisted. Flame Dart comes down to Magnezone, but we're Assault Vest, so we live that too. And Body Press is 1000% going to KO Hydreigon there, as Ninetales is revealed to be the last Pokemon, and it takes some Rocks damage upon coming in.
They pounce Rotom, but Scizor still isn't doing any damage, and I just want to get Rotom out into Maushold here. I mean, you're able to Flash Cannon into Ninetales pretty much for free, as the opponent realizes that they can't win the game with just a burnt Scizor. Here we have a battle against a Pelipper Rain team, but they also have some slower elements like the King Gambit and probably the Annihilate, and Tatsugiri is just here for some reason. I don't think it came to the battle, but it's just kind of here. So the opponent leads Archaludon and Pelipper, and we lead Cleaver and Sableye here. And we get to protect Sableye for this turn, just because I wanted to see what they would do. And we get to Stone Axe Pelipper for free to take it out of the game immediately, as they Electro-Shotted into Sableye here, and so it's good that we protected this turn. As they bring in Annihilate, which is going to be a little difficult for us to remove with Cleaver, who's currently locked into a Rock-type move. And they close combated Magnezone, which I think is kind of a crazy play, because Scizor was previously neutral to that, but they Electro-Shot into Sableye, which takes it off the field, so we don't get our Gravity this game. But now we can bring in Cleaver again, who can close combat the Archaludon, and we previously tricked the eject button onto it, so Archaludon's going to get these boosts, but it's going to be forced out, and Incineroar has to hit the field. And Annihilate close combats Cleaver, but it doesn't do enough into Cleaver. I mean, that's the amount of damage it would have done previously, but we get to Volt Switch into the Annihilate for free as we bring Flapple back onto the field, and our Caledon just dies to the Stealth Rocks because it did exactly as much as it needed to at 6% health. And we just get... Incineroar doesn't decide to fake out. I think it just kind of understands that the game is over at this point, because Flapple's Outrage, if we can land it because of our hustle, but Cleaver's close combat definitely shores up the game there. Here we have what looks to be a Trick Room team, but they also have the ability to just set up with Kamao, since they can bring in Sinistcha for the hospitality. So I wasn't quite sure how to start against this team, but they lead Sinistcha and Incineroar, so they're not going for any of the setup immediately is what it looks like, but we led Maushold, so we're doing kind of okay here, and they immediately decide to Terra Fairy, which I think is a little bit strange. But we get the Snarl off into Incineroar and Sinistcha is going to get up the Trick Room here, but I'm pretty okay with that because I don't think they could KO both of us, and Sinistcha is just going for Life Dew, and they try to Parting Shot Maushold, but Maushold is Clear Amulet, so we don't care about that, as we just get to go for the Pop Bomb into Sinistcha, and we're doing about 14 or 13% per hit, and we get the critical hit, which also helps us out because they are Citrus Berry, but I think even without the Citrus Berry would always KO there. We're going to protect Maushold for this one turn, and I decided to put the eject button onto Kamao this turn as a Flash Cannon to Sableye, and because we Snarl here, Kamao could have been soundproof, but thankfully it wasn't, so we get to swap out Kamao with the eject button so it doesn't get to move this turn, as they Parting Shot into Sableye in order to bring Kamao back, but we get a free Population Bomb into Primarina, because Primarina doesn't have the best physical defense in the world. That is 1000% going to KO Primarina. And it's at this point that the opponent decides to give up the battle, since we still have two Pokemon in the back, and we can just protect Maushold on this turn that Incineroar is forced to fake out, and they could go for Clangorous to increase their speed, but they're probably not able to outspeed Maushold if I had to guess. Depends on how much speed investment they have. But I think this is probably our best Maushold game that we had, where Maushold just absolutely started obliterating things once the Ghost type was gone. Up next we have yet another Rain team, but this Rain team it's kind of weird because it has Sylveon and Espeon, which Sylveon does good spread fairy damage, and Espeon really wants to be on Psychic Terrain, but it can still do a lot of, like, it has a pretty wide move pool, so it's hard to tell what it'll do inside closed team sheets. But we decide to lead Cleaver and Sableye here, and they decide to lead Farigiraf and the Espeon as we crit the U-turn into the Farigiraf, which probably mattered there if I had to, definitely mattered there if I had to guess. But because that's gone, we can now just have Sableye. I was kind of hoping that Sableye wouldn't get attacked this turn. And we get to Snarl down the Espeon, which is nice, as they went for Power Gem into what was previously Cleaver, but because we U-turned, we get to just have Magnet Zone absolutely soak up that hit. And they decide to swap in Sylveon here, which I am perfectly okay with, as we get to Flash Cannon down the Garganacl as we just previously tricked it, so now it's going to be forced out and it can't get the Sulk Cure into Magnezone, which means that Magnezone is in an even better spot as we get to set up the Gravity, and Sableye's going to take a good amount of damage from the Shadow Ball and it's going to drop her special defense, but because we have Gravity set up, we can go for the Zap Cannon into Espeon just to get rid of it, and we saw we were faster than the Rock, whatever the Rock's name is. Garganacl, you're faster than Garganacl before, so we can just flash cannon it down. And now it is Sylveon pretty much versus the world at this point, as Cleaver gets to land that Stone X inside of Gravity. And flash cannon is going to finish up this super effective KO whenever my computer catches up. So yeah, for whatever reason, they just decided not to bring the rain component, which I feel like was their best shot at winning here. But maybe that first turn U-turn crit into Farigiraf ended up doing much more than they expected, because it definitely did more than I expected. But then again, with the Snarl that we would have gotten on Sableye, I think we would still be fine inside of Trick Room. Lastly, we have a battle against yet another rain team here. However, their rain component is a little bit different because they have the Kingdra, which will outspeed everything on our team whenever it has its Swift Swim active. So they immediately lead Kingdra, which is good for us. I was hoping that we could get that right out of the way. As we lead Magnezone and Sableye here, and Pelipper just helping hands into Kingdra as we get up our Gravity, and Muddy Water is not enough to knock out Magnezone, so Magnezone is going to be able to launch that. As the Zap Cannon is going to be super easy able to take out Kingdra there, since Magnezone is the last moving Pokemon on the field. And now we can bring in Cleaver, as they Terra Steel their Dragonite, so we don't get to take them out with the Stone X, and they also have Weather Ball and Dragonite, so they get to take out Cleaver, which is a little... it puts us in a bit of a scary place. But we get to Volt Switch Pelipper, who's also Focus Sash, but now it's Rotom and Magnezone versus the world. The Dragonite goes for another Weather Ball, and that KOs Magnezone, and they Hurricane into Rotom, but we Hydro Pump into Dragonite, and that's guaranteed to land because we're currently under Gravity, and they revealed Politoed as their last Pokemon, so Rotom's actually looking really good here. They protect for whatever reason, but I was able to Volt Switch into Pelipper in order to get rid of it, and now it is Rotom versus Pelipper, and they have Chilling Water, which, based on the damage that did, I feel pretty confident in saying that Rotom can take this Politoed. And we still have our Terra left, but I don't want to use it quite yet. But they Icy Wind Rotom, but we're Covert Cloak, so we ignore the speed drop. And I just decided to rip that Terra Electric now that we know that we can pick up the Volt Switch KO. So yeah, had some pretty good matches to show off the team there. However, I feel like we only had that one really good Maushold game where we were able to just spam Population Bomb into everything. Because everything on this team really does fit Gravity super well because of all the slightly lower accuracy moves that they have that they can do a lot of damage with. So maybe you could just call this the Gravity team, but I don't think we're done seeing Gravity yet in the 128 challenges. So we're just going to call this the Maushold Gravity team. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, maybe consider leaving a like on the video and even consider subscribing, because both of those things will help me out an absolute ton. And I'm also going to preface this video with saying that there probably is going to be a couple day break after Team 32 comes out, just so I can recharge my batteries and also save my voice a little bit, because I'm starting to strain my voice a little bit here into 32 videos, but I think the couple days of rest will do me good on that front. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.